Today we're going over the recent Trump rally shooting. Now, regardless of your politics, we can all agree this kind of violence is wrong. There is absolutely no justification for this horrible act. And unfortunately right now, we also don't have much of an explanation. So let's start with what happened. On the morning of Saturday, July 13th, 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks went to a Home Depot where he purchased a 5-foot ladder. Then he bought 50 rounds of ammunition at a gun store. Next, he drove an hour to Pennsylvania to join thousands of people gathering for Trump's upcoming rally. He parked on the outside of the rally, leaving a homemade explosive device in his vehicle, but bringing with him the transmitter. Rallygoers reported that he appeared suspicious and was pacing near the magnometers, before he eventually began climbing what may have been his newly purchased ladder to the top of a nearby building. Former President Trump was put on stage here, and the gunman was on the roof right here, less than 450 feet away. Snipers were situated on nearby roofs. Moments before the shooting unfolded, attendees actually began shouting and trying to bring awareness about somebody on the roof with a gun.
There he is.
Because we have millions and millions of people in our country that shouldn't be here. Dangerous people, criminals. We have criminals. We have drug dealers. We have people that should not be here.
Right on the roof.
It's much tougher than it is.
Butler County Sheriff Michael Sloop told the AP that a local officer climbed to the roof and encountered Crooks.
Well, from what I understand, the officer got lifted up to the roof, and when the eye contact was made, my understanding is the shooter turned towards the officer, and the officer dropped his grip and fell to the ground at that point. And I'm assuming, hearing from your last Mike there, he said that the shooter then started shooting shortly thereafter.
If you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
And that's when Secret Service snipers shot and killed him. Before Crooks was killed, he took the life of Corey Coperator, a 50-year-old volunteer fire chief. The man died shielding his wife and daughters from the bullets. David Dutch, another rally-goer, was also injured in the chaos, receiving broken ribs and a damaged liver. The 57-year-old Trump supporter survived, but required several operations. Trump sustained an injury to his ear, while another attendee was later stabilized in the hospital. When it comes to the shooter, Thomas Matthew Crooks, it's still a real mystery as to why he would commit such a vicious and heinous attack. A motive has yet to be found, which leaves only speculation. The FBI has obtained his phone, but they're increasingly convinced he was a, quote, lone wolf without any ties to extremist groups. At the time of the shooting, Crooks worked at a nursing home as a dietary aide, a job that generally involves food preparation. The administrator of Bethel Park Skilled Nursing and Rehabilitation said in a statement she was, quote, shocked and saddened to learn of his involvement. She added that Crooks had a clean background check when he was hired. Although he had no criminal past, his personal life seemed to be full of turmoil, which could potentially shed some light onto why he chose to act out this way. Crooks graduated from Bethel Park High School in 2022. In a video of the school's graduation ceremony posted online, Crooks can be seen crossing the stage to receive his diploma, appearing slight of build and wearing glasses. The school district said it will cooperate fully with investigators. His senior year, Crooks was among several students given an award for math and science. Crooks also tried out for the school's rifle team, but was turned away because he was a bad shooter, according to one classmate. Jason Kohler, who said he attended the same high school but did not share any classes with Crooks, said Crooks was bullied at school and sat alone at lunchtime. Other students mocked him for the clothes he wore, which included hunting outfits, Kohler said. It also sounds as though the bullying was incredibly persistent.
Yeah, my name is Jason Kohler. I live in Bethel Park. I'm 21 years old. I graduated in 21.
Got it. So he graduated 22.
Yeah.
Do you have any interaction with the shooter?
I didn't have any interaction with him, but he was like a kid that was always alone. He was always bullied every day. He was just an outcast. Yeah.
After the terrifying shooting, a video of Crooks being teased by classmates has also emerged and has now gone viral.
Stop. Dad, put your leggings. Stop. Dad, put your leggings.
Not only did it appear that Crooks lacked any close friends, he may have lacked a support system at home as well. The shooter's parents, who have been cooperating with law enforcement since the shooting, have told investigators that Crooks did not appear to have friends and did not appear to have any political leanings. They didn't seem to know much about what was going on in his life recently, law enforcement sources said. This could potentially cast doubt on how active Crooks' parents were in his life. However, both parents were professional counselors as well, so it's possible that Crooks himself chose to keep his personal life private from his parents. So we don't know much, but it seems as though the one thing we do know for certain is that Crooks was bullied a lot. Bullying, especially at a young age, is well established as a possible link to school shootings later on. Most attackers who target K-12 schools were bullied, sometimes persistently, according to a 2019 report by the U.S. Secret Service National Threat Assessment Center that analyzed 41 incidents of school violence at K-12 schools between 2008 and 2017. While that analysis only looked at behavioral histories for 35 of the 41 attackers, 80% of those 35 were bullied by classmates, and 57% faced bullying that lasted for weeks, months, or years. This may establish why some bullied students lash out with violence on school grounds. Although Crooks was bullied in school, he committed a violent act outside of school after he graduated. The truth is, bullying in school can have long-lasting effects that take years to fully develop. According to a professor of psychology at the University of Florida, when we think about being victimized chronically through bullying, we know from the research that decades later, maybe 30 years later, if you're chronically victimized, you will have a full-blown diagnosis of major depressive disorders or generalized anxiety disorders. So it's serious consequences for the victims. Still, having depression or anxiety does not mean you're going to go out and commit an atrocity. However, the consequences of chronic bullying are not limited to only depression or anxiety. According to a 1998 Juvenile Justice Bulletin, studies of bullying suggest that there are short and long-term consequences for both the perpetrators and victims of bullying. Students who are chronic victims of bullying experience more physical and psychological problems than their peers who are not harassed by other children, and they tend not to grow out of the role of victim. Keep in mind that this is merely a theory and a possible explanation as to why a seemingly quiet and normal person would go and do something like this. This is by no means meant to be a defense of the shooter. What he did was absolutely inexcusable, bullying or not. However, simply condemning these actions is not enough. If we really want to prevent future violence, we have to try and understand why somebody would do something like this. The long-lasting consequences of being bullied can look different for both men and women. Girls more commonly internalize bullying, which leads to anxiety and depression. Boys, however, are more likely to externalize bullying, which can look like aggression, violence, and criminal behavior. Several studies show links between being bullied and violence or crime, especially for men. A 2011 meta-analysis that included studies with data on almost 6,000 participants showed that after controlling for externalizing symptoms at baseline, peer victimization was associated over time with exhibiting externalizing problems such as aggression, truancy, and delinquency. Keep in mind that a lot of these studies indicate how bullying can severely impact your mental well-being if that bullying is persistent. And the one thing we know for sure is that Crooks was persistently bullied. Crooks was a good student as well, so his victimization at the hands of his bullies may have taken time to develop into full-blown externalizing symptoms. Julianne Grooms, who graduated a year after Crooks, told the Wall Street Journal that Crooks stood out for his awkwardness. Quote, "If someone would say something to his face, he would just kind of stare at them," she said. People would say he was the student who would shoot up high school. Even more concerning, some recent studies have suggested that bullying, especially if the bullying is severe and takes place for an extended period of time, has an association with psychotic symptoms later in life. However, a New Zealand longitudinal study suggested that the association with bullying and later psychosis is not causal, but instead that people who display disordered behavior may be easier targets for bullying. A recent meta-analysis conducted in 2015 examined 10 European prospective studies, 4 from the Avon longitudinal study of parents and children. This analysis found that individuals who were bullied were more than twice as likely to develop later psychotic symptoms compared to those who were not bullied. Although there is no confirmation that Crooks was formally diagnosed with any mental health conditions, these facts speak volumes to the importance of better access to mental health care. Here was a student being relentlessly bullied, and now we understand the grave consequences for all of society if we allow mental health conditions to boil over untreated. The truth is, seeking therapy or counseling is a logical and rational thing to do that can improve your overall quality of life. Still, however, barriers exist in this country, such as affordability, which can hinder the seeking of mental health care. Nordic countries provide free mental health care for their citizens, and the benefits are clear. According to a 2016 Commonwealth Fund International Health Policy Survey, in 2016, 23% of US adults reported a mental health diagnosis, compared to less than 10% of adults in France, the Netherlands, and Germany. Even more so, the US has a relatively low supply of mental health workers, particularly psychologists and psychiatrists. Just 1/3 of US primary care practices have mental health professionals on their team, compared to more than 90% in the Netherlands and Sweden. It's interesting how Sweden dedicates more resources to mental health, and sure enough, Sweden was named the best country for mental health in 2023, and in 2024, it retains the top spot. Sweden currently has a positive mental well-being score of 31 out of 35. Offering a public healthcare option so people without insurance or people who are financially struggling can still access potentially life-saving mental health care is something that's both realistic and beneficial for society. People like Crooks should be seeing a therapist. They should not be seeing through a sniper scope. The truth is, diagnosis or not, it takes a sick and twisted mind to carry out something like this. It's hard to fathom anybody doing such a thing if they didn't already have some kind of mental illness. Crooks also appeared to have an interest in guns.
Did he do anything in school? Was he a part of any club or anything that you guys know of?
I believe he was on the rifle team. My brother was on the rifle team. I actually texted my brother this morning to see if this is true.
Crooks had tried out for his high school's rifle team when he was a freshman, CBS reported, but classmates said Crooks didn't make the team and never tried out again. One classmate said that Crooks was, quote, such a comically bad shot, he was unable to make the team and left after the first day. Another classmate mentioned what could be seen as some red flags. They told the Post that the rifle team coach had concerns about Crooks based on some crass jokes Crooks made and how he interacted with others. Although Crooks didn't make the rifle team, it didn't stop his apparent love of guns. At the time of the shooting, Crooks did belong to a local gun club, which has a 200-yard rifle range among its facilities. The club confirmed Crooks' membership in a statement. The day before the shooting, Crooks visited a shooting range to practice firing, according to law enforcement officials speaking to CNN. Crooks used an AR-15 style weapon that his father had purchased legally to carry out this heinous attack. Now, it's really easy to get caught up in the people versus guns argument here, but at the end of the day, we don't only have a gun problem, and we don't only have a people problem. What we really have is a problem with guns being in the hands of the wrong people. People who are severely mentally ill, or people who exhibit red flags, should not own a deadly weapon. More background checks, longer wait periods, reference checks, and ensuring that guns are locked up away from other family members are just a few things that can be done to try and reduce guns falling into the hands of the wrong people. Even more so, these protective measures are simple and they won't impact law-abiding gun owners. Crooks lived in a home with over a dozen weapons inside, all legally purchased by his father. Clearly, more precautions are also needed to ensure that the gun is always locked up or only the licensed gun owner is in possession of the weapon. This tragic ordeal should never have happened. Thomas Matthew Crooks was obviously struggling with some demons behind the scenes, and I only wish he had been able to get help before he did the unthinkable.